Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Beyond Day One. I'm David, and I'm so glad that you're here with us. We started last week talking about AI, and I shared with you a little bit about my frustration with AI on LinkedIn and some of the wild conversations that are already happening. And one of the things that, though, I ran into this week that I found fascinating that I want to share with you about the AI confidence inflation. AI confidence inflation. I'm going to share with you in just a minute what that means. Before I do, let me bring in my help, Philip Rich and John.
Just John.
Yes.
That's John.
Wow,
Yeah.
I graduated.
You've
He's
graduated, John.
graduated.
It's a good thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Wow.
So, guys, we talked about AI last week, and we talked about how much there's so much more room for AI to grow, and that we are, even though AI has been around for some years, that from a consumer perspective, it's still fresh and new. It's still kind of in the wrapper, and I feel, and you guys tell me if you see it differently. I feel like we're still in the kind of early adoption stage with pressure to pick it up quick. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would definitely say that seems to be an initiative with a lot of companies out there right now because AI, let's face it, just based on the numbers, it's the highest, it's the most productive category of our GDP in the past year. Companies are adopting it by and large, and it seems to be more of just who's going to get it implemented first, kind of a race to see who's got the most innovative strategy for AI. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of hype around it. Some of which is founded, but others, needs a little work. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think definitely there's quite a bit, like almost like the gold rush in 1849. Kind of the same thing is happening now with AI.
Philip,
Right.
that is a beautiful, beautiful uh, example. That's a great picture you painted there. But Philip, we were talking a little bit earlier. We see that there was a problem with Amazon web servers today,
Mm.
Yeah,
and they were down in one area. I think you said for 6 hours.
yeah,
And there is even, you mentioned GDP earlier. There's a lot of consternation around AI right now because it is the gold rush right now. It is California back in that day, that some people think it's too much too fast, and that you know somebody's gonna drop the ball, and the whole thing's gonna come crashing down. It's gonna be like the dot-com bubble in the 80s. And I don't think it's gonna get to that. That's just me. I don't invest because David said don't do that. But I'm saying that I think we have something in AI. It is a bit like gold, and I think a lot of companies are racing to try to be first instead of to use the tool to the best of its ability for their organization. And we'll
yeah.
talk about that coming soon. John, what's your thought?
I do agree that it is a bit. Everyone's trying to put all their eggs in this basket we call AI.
Yeah.
But honestly, like we talked about a little bit last week, the appeal is kind of like fallen off a little bit. Where it's like, oh, we made these super assistants that can do all these things for us, and man, now that we've got our calendars and our schedules put together and our meeting notes, and now that I've got my speeches, lined up and corrected, now what? You know what I mean? Like everything, it feels like we just, so much has been put into AI as far as server storage, and RAM production and whatnot, just to have us sitting here on our hands, just kind of not knowing what to do next because, well, AI just kind of served its purpose for the public a little bit,
Yeah, we're
and
we're
yeah,
still creating cute little pictures and
right,
turning them into different styles of anime. and,
right,
and that kind of thing. So let me share with you guys some statistics about Gen Z's usage of AI. According to the statistics, about 82% of Gen Z employees use AI at work. That's higher than 73% of millennials and 60% of Gen X. Many use AI to help with emails, brainstorming, meeting notes, and organizing tasks. I want to take us back to last week. I know we just kind of simplified and said recipes and that kind of thing, but these are, while meaning helpful, these are still kind of foundational things
Yeah.
that people are using them for. AI users say it saves about 7.5 hours per week on average. You
Mhm.
probably get that just from email. Let's just keep it real. Email
Right.
sometimes can be the bane of your existence. And
Yeah.
then the other thing I want you to know about Gen Z in the workplace with AI, 70% say that they taught themselves the AI tools that they use. And in some workplaces, they're teaching their older colleagues how to use AI tools. So Gen Z is playing an important role in AI usage in the workplace, and they are getting involved in it naturally. It makes sense because they are the first generation that has been fully digital. So it makes perfectly good sense that Gen Z would step into this realm. But I ran into something very interesting this week, and it's called the AI confidence inflation. Let me tell you what's happening. When it comes to the AI confidence inflation, I'm going to give you two examples. The first is the young professional who has spent time using AI to prepare for their interview, to ask themselves basic questions and get the perfect answer that would be asked in an interview. And they even may be using AI during the interview, and inevitably they come across really, really well. They're strong, they have the right answers, they're saying the right things. And so you hire this person. And then once you have them at the desk at work, they don't come across nearly as strong as they did when they were in the interview. Why? There was an AI confidence boost that you didn't know about when you hired them, and what they're able to do with AI versus how they actually behave and can function in their desk are two different things. Another example is, let's say you have a young professional working for you and you have them put together a spreadsheet. And so using AI, they're able to take the data and create a spreadsheet that shows your year over year sales and what what this part means, what that part means, and all of that. And they turn in that spreadsheet and you say, "Hey, great job. What's the difference between 2024 and 25?" And they look at you funny and say, "What's that?" Because the confidence inflation says, "I know how to use AI and I use it to create this report, but I have no idea of how that report got put together or any of the variables that are really in there that help me understand all of the elements so that I'm completely useful for you in the report." And so you have confidence that's being born from AI that isn't translating into their ability to actually execute the job and understand the pieces of the puzzle around it. Philip, does that make sense to you? What comes to mind for you as we talk about that?
I was looking up some things on this earlier today, and it's a pretty fascinating topic. But there's actually a name for this, kind of like a little, uh, I guess, like a slang word that's come out of it called skill fishing. And
Mm,
basically, it says this is where job seekers use generative AI to craft flawless, keyword stuffed resumes that do not match their actual real world abilities.
Yeah.
So, in other words, they look amazing on paper, but then when they actually get into, like you said, David, into their seat at the desk in the cubicle, uh, they're not able to execute as well as what their resume made it sound like they could. And so that's a pretty big issue because remember, guys, we're talking about, and as David has aptly named this, beyond day one, right? It's like it's not just about getting that job, but also what's
Right.
going to happen once you've got the job. You don't want to misrepresent yourself and overinflate your actual level of skill to the point that to put it in the old way, you can't back up what you're talking. You don't want that to
mm.
happen. So
Right.
Yeah. And what's interesting, and And the other thing that's coming from this is that, yes, this generation is on top of using AI, but they're also guilty of over relying on AI rather than developing skills. For
Yeah.
example, that spreadsheet, it's one thing to be able to create the spreadsheet using AI. It's another thing to know how all the pieces of that puzzle play out. Why
Yeah.
column A is what it is, why column B is, and even developing the skill that you could put it together yourself if you didn't have access to AI or something was going on. And that's not something we see that this younger generation is doing right now. So they're not only over dependent and they're lacking on developing the real skills. The other thing that we're seeing is that it reduces collaboration with real people
Yeah.
because they're dependent on AI. So
Yeah.
when all of those things come into play, what you have sitting at the desk is something different than what you thought that you interviewed. And so
Mhm.
there are just a couple of things that I wanted to encourage you to do as a young professional to help you to start overcoming that confidence inflation and let it be confidence, not an inflated confidence. And here's just a couple of things. Number one, it's good that you adopt AI quickly. Don't allow AI to become the thing that you're so deeply in that you're not collaborating with others. John, you want to talk about that for just a moment?
Oh, for sure. Honestly, you, well, the best way I would describe it is that you don't want to get into a car that you don't know how to drive.
Yeah.
You
Right.
don't want to get in, you're not going to be, you don't want to feel confident in flying a plane and all of a sudden put me in the cockpit because I feel good about this. No, sir. And I feel like that applies to this whole conversation, but just regarding working with people, I feel like there's like filter across your eyes where when you're using AI has this thing where it just makes you sound right. It makes you feel like you're right, and like it has like this underlying tone of making sure that you feel good about the ideas that you're providing the AI. And so
Mhm.
there's no system of checks and balances. Hey, if you ask Chat GPT or whatever assistants you use to pull this thing together, what do you think about this thing? I want to introduce it into my speech, into my conversation with this interview. You know what? This is actually a really good idea. I'm glad you brought this up. This could go really well for you. And then you don't really have a peer checking your work or checking your script or whatever it is that you're pulling together. And it kind of eliminates that element of variety. You have no one to check your conversation, no one to check your research.
As you can see, we've got a lot to talk about in this, but let me throw a couple of things at you that we're going to discuss more next week. Number one, as a young professional, you want to make sure that you're using AI effectively and wisely. You have to think independently, you have to communicate clearly, never stop reading the room, and then make good decisions. So much of what makes AI work for us are still human skills. Never forget the human skills in your AI work. Join us for the continuation of this conversation on the next episode. Until then, I'm David. He's Philip. That's John. And we are out.